Hello and a very warm welcome to World's Panorama, the show that gives you a 360-degree view of major global events of the week. I'm Sana Khan. Before we move ahead, here's a look at this week's top stories. Mitt Romney lays claim to the Republican nomination for president after winning 6 out of 10 states on Super Tuesday, but is his narrow victory enough to deliver a decisive blow to his rivals? Vladimir Putin elected Russian president by a wide margin. Thousands protest across Moscow claiming the election was a fraud. Fresh trouble for Pakistan government. Supreme Court issues an ultimatum to Prime Minister Gilani to write to Swiss authorities to revive cases against the president. And in sports, Lionel Messi becomes the first player to net 5 goals in Champions League as Barcelona thrash Leverkusen 7-1 to ease into quarterfinals. And now our focus. The US presidential election is picking up momentum. After Super Tuesday, though Republican presidential hopeful Mitt Romney is still likely to win the GOP nomination, the primary process may have exposed Romney's weaknesses. He won 6 states and a lot of delegates. Importantly, he squeaked in Ohio, a state with a storied history in Republican nominating contests. But this was hardly a decisive national victory. Romney proved weak in South and with evangelical and working-class voters. He lost Tennessee, Oklahoma and North Dakota to Rick Santorum and Georgia to Newt Gingrich. And it's a rare for a Republican frontrunner to come so close to losing Ohio. What happens from here on in the US presidential elections? We'll be discussing more of this with our special guest here, Professor Savita Pandey from School of International Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Thanks so much, ma'am, for joining us here today. Before we get to her, take a look at this report.
Super Tuesday had something for everyone in the Republican presidential race. Mitt Romney won 6 of the 10 primaries and caucuses, including the important state of Ohio. But his winning margin there was just a few thousand votes.
We're going to take your vote, a huge vote tonight in Massachusetts, and take that victory all the way to the White House.
While Romney won Massachusetts, Idaho, Virginia, Alaska, Vermont and Ohio, the night's biggest prize, he was still unable to deliver the knockout blow to his rivals that his supporters had been hoping for. Rick Santorum, who pushed Romney all the way in Ohio, secured victory in 3 states, Tennessee, Oklahoma and North Dakota, and insisted he was in the race until the end. Newt Gingrich, meanwhile, celebrated the win in his home state of Georgia. The Republican presidential candidate, who picked up 76 delegates, thanked the crowd for their unwavering support.
It turns out the American people like positive ideas and positive solutions, and the American people like proposals that give them a better future, that create jobs and help create a better future. And so I think for the third time, we're going to come bouncing back. And I suspect in another 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have a clear choice.
We are in this thing. We are in this thing not because I so badly want to be the most powerful man in this country. It's because I want so badly to return the power to you in this country.
The mixed results in the 10-state contest suggest that Romney is still unable to win over some conservatives and rally the party behind his candidacy. With Santorum Gingrich energized by their wins, the often acrimonious race will likely continue for weeks or months, perhaps weakening the eventual nominee and benefiting Obama, whose standing in opinion polls has improved.
You've seen that report. Now let's get in Professor Pandey at this point in time. Professor Pandey, how do you see the Republican presidential race post-Super Tuesday? Do you think Romney is emerging as a leader or there's still confusion?
It's too early to predict for a number of factors. The process of American presidential election itself, the timing, it's too early. The Democrats have yet to take over or start off the primaries. But among what is existing, yes, you have Romney coming. But to call him a front runner, I think, would be too early to say that. The man is not free of controversies. The issues themselves, he yet has to pick them up and be as a front runner. Then, structurally, he's not from the red states. And besides, his own being a businessman with a reputation of closing, switching over businesses. So he carries this baggage from him, apart from the evangelics obviously opposing him on substantial issues like abortion or the gay rights. And, these are the issues which take on him. And then his specific cult. So it's too early to say whether he will emerge. If you look at rest of the candidates, you say maybe he's better than them.
Yeah.
But to say that eventually he'll be a challenge or the ultimate.
But it's really sad for Romney because after Super Tuesday, he's won 6 out of 10 states. He's won the key state of Ohio. But then again, the margin there is not very big. Ohio is a very key swing state now. President Obama in 2008 had a lead of about 52 to 47. Now, that's a huge lead. So basically, Romney is winning, but he's not really winning.
He's not really winning, and then you need so many delegates, You see, look at the end figure. Will he be able to reach that? That's the thing. And as I said, he also carries a lot of baggage, from the past. He's earlier been there, and the issues which have just stuck him. There are two classes of people who oppose him. The middle class, the white-collar jobs people oppose him, and the evangelics oppose him. And his opponent, Rick Santorum and all, would definitely take advantage of all these constituencies and put them together. Besides, he has to win in the important places, and Midwest, which is the deciding factor in American elections, is not there. Initially also he has begun with a lot of problems. He emerges as because rest of them are nowhere. But otherwise on his own, I would say very far.
All right. Now, another interesting thing that we get to know or learn after Super Tuesday is, apart from his win, but with a very narrow margin in Ohio, many say that the gainer is not Romney or not even Santorum, who's not even won so many places, but it's Barack Obama. Many factors there. Would you throw some light on that, how Obama could gain perhaps from what we saw after Super Tuesday?
Well, Obama is anyway on the uprise, the American economy itself is going up. The unemployment rate has come down. He has taken measures which are beginning to show signs. So he can say, look, you were there and I brought you up here. And also, he has had some foreign policy gains. Best of them was killing of Osama. And after that, Gaddafi. And how, he's being very, very cautious in Middle East. Even when Gaddafi was killed, the kind of approaches which he adopted. So he's anyway on the upswing. He comes from better states. In any way, he's more qualified than these people. So the initial thing was no second term for Barack Obama is not there. And seeing a comparative advantage which he derives from these other candidates, he's, yes, better off than them.
And also, these are the positives working for Barack Obama. But also, do you think, infighting amongst the Republicans and the low turnout, which many are talking about this time, as far as the Republicans are concerned, is also going to be a key factor?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Infighting, unless this Republican infighting stops. Look at, on the other hand, the Democrats. You have Barack Obama, you have others, Darcy and all, who are there just in case the first candidate doesn't work. That kind of situation. But here, one challenge, one upmanship over the other. As I said, Rick Santorum uniting the opposition against him and getting into place. Look at the speeches they made on Super Tuesday. So, that's the kind of position they're definitely worse off. They should realize. And plus, Barack Obama has the incumbency advantage with him, which they don't.
Absolutely. So, going ahead, now I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. What are the major issues that both the Republicans and Democrats will be fighting on as we move ahead in these elections? Which are going to be those decisive factors that the Americans will say, yes, the Democrats and the Republicans are working for it, and hence our vote should go to them?
Well, if American voters were as decisive and the American presidential electoral system was actually reflective of the American public opinion, things would have been different. But as things stand, since we look at political situation into as things stand, see, first of all, economy. This time, foreign policy will matter even less than it has. I mean, the only issue, and on that count, there is less disagreement. On Iraq, for instance, the withdrawal has been there. He said there'll be a complete withdrawal. Even those who were critical of his Iraq policy, despite capture and killing of Saddam Hussein, are now in the back front. Similarly, on Afghanistan, and there was a criticism of the upsurge, but after Osama's thing, many people say he should withdraw, and by July that withdrawal should be there. So these are the counts on which he will not face problems, and foreign policy issue will not be there in the forefront. But issues economy. 14 trillion is not a small amount. That's the foreign debt they face. Of course, they're saying that from next year onwards, results will start showing, and this will reduce. The defense expenditure is enormously going up, especially after the recent figures when the Chinese defense expenditure has gone up. It will be very difficult for the United States to cut off its or even reduce its defense expenditure. Nuclear posture review. Obama went back on his own saying cutting off, and he ended up increasing $13 million. So that's the kind of situation that they have. Economy, number one. Health laws, for instance. There are many people who are critical of it being mandatory.
Right.
There are others who are not sure of its success, especially the Republicans are targeting him on his health reform bill. In fact, at one point of time, to campaign for his health reform bill, Obama, postponed his Asian trip. And at that point of time, also the criticism was how far health reform will go. Republicans have threatened to undo it, and also redefine what health reform itself means.
All right.
So it depends on how these debates will pick up. That will decide on which way the American voters' mood would swing.
All right, Professor Pandey, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks so much for making us understand what's happening as far as the US elections are going on. We hope to have you back very, very soon. So there, as Professor Pandey said, as Romney is winning, but still Barack Obama might have that edge as he has so many factors working for him. With that, we'll have to wrap up this discussion. We're heading in for a short break. But all the very latest from Russian presidential elections on the other side, where the voters have decided. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on World Panorama. Vladimir Putin declared victory in Russia's presidential elections, returning for a third term after spending the last 4 years as the country's prime minister. Exit polls and preliminary results gave him about 60% of the vote. Putin told supporters at a rally in central Moscow they had won in an open and honest battle. But opposition groups have reported widespread fraud, with many people said to have voted more than once. Here's more. Vladimir Putin won a resounding victory in Russia's presidential election on Sunday, securing a new 6-year term in the Kremlin.
The
president of the Russian Federation, according to preliminary data, Vladimir Putin, with the preliminary result of 63.75%, with more than 45 million of electorate's votes.
The teary-eyed Russian strongman claimed victory, storming into the Kremlin for a record third term.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your congratulations yesterday. And not only for that, also that this election campaign, in my opinion, with all its harshness, was not overwhelmingly dirty like it used to be in the old times.
Russian police arrested more than 500 people protesting Vladimir Putin's crushing victory in elections that the opposition denounced as illegitimate and international monitors said were skewed. Vladimir Putin faces a fresh challenge from Russia's protesting community despite winning the presidential elections.
The results of the elections probably weren't unexpected, but what they really show depends on who interprets them. For Putin and his supporters, it was a certain victory. For Putin opponents, it's one more confirmation that the regime is manipulative and the elections were dirty.
Putin, who supported Medvedev in the Kremlin race in 2008 and became prime minister because of a constitutional ban on a third consecutive term as president, will now be in office until 2018. The election was held against a backdrop of popular discontent sparked by allegations of widespread fraud during December's parliamentary elections in favor of Putin's United Russia party. Over to Syria now. With no end in sight to the conflict and reports of bloody reprisals by Assad's forces, former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan will be arriving in Syria as joint UN Arab League envoy. Now, the scenes that you will be seeing in our next report show devastation in Idlib and a funeral for 7 people which were said to have been killed by Syrian authorities in the Deira region. Here's more.
Syria's deputy oil minister became the first high-ranking civilian official to abandon President Bashar al-Assad since the uprising against his rule began. Hussein al-Din announced his defection in a video posted on a social media website. Meanwhile, Russia accused Libya during a UN Security Council meeting of running a training center for Syrian rebels and arming the fighters in their battle to overthrow Bashar al-Assad.
We have received information that in Libya, with the support of authorities, there is a special training center for the Syrian revolutionaries and their people are sent to Syria to attack the legal government. This is completely unacceptable according to all legal basis. This activity is undermining stability in the Middle East.
China's envoy to Syria told President Bashar al-Assad's government to stop the violence and help the United Nations and the International Committee of the Red Cross send aid to strife-hit areas.
He urged the Syrian government and all the relevant parties to stop the violence immediately, actively cooperated with the UN and ICRC to ease the humanitarian situation in Syria, and immediately open political dialogue facilitated by the United Nations and Arab League without setting any political preconditions or projecting any outcomes.
In Syria, security forces have killed more than 7,500 civilians during an 11th-month crackdown on pro-democracy protesters. According to the United Nations, the outside world has proved powerless to halt the killing. Russia and China have twice used vetoes to block action by the UN Security Council.
Let's now take a look at some of the other developments across the globe in our next report.
The Supreme Court of Pakistan issued an ultimatum to embattled Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani to write to Swiss authorities to revive draft cases against the president without seeking legal advice, deepening the tensions between the government and the judiciary. A 7-judge bench led by Justice Nasir ul Mulk further directed the Premier to submit a report giving details of the action taken by him at the next hearing on 21st March. World powers said that mooted talks with Iran must be serious and urged Tehran to allow UN inspectors access to a military base thought to be central to its suspected nuclear weapons drive. They added that their readiness to negotiate was on the understanding that these talks will address the international community's long-standing concerns and that there will be serious discussions on concrete confidence-building measures. American filmmakers who reported on wartime atrocities in Africa for a 50-minute work called Invisible Children drew more attention than they imagined when their project was released in 2005. The group's new 29-minute video is gaining even more attention thanks to social media. The work released is part of an effort called Kony 2012 that targets the Lord's Resistance Army and its leader Joseph Kony, a bushfighter wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. At least 14 people were killed when 2 passenger trains collided head-on in southern Poland late on March 3rd in one of the country's worst train crashes in more than 20 years. The 2 trains carrying an estimated 350 passengers were heading in opposite directions on the same track when they crashed at high speed in a rural area near the town of Zecocini. At least 54 people were injured.
Time for a very short break here. Apple launches its latest version of the much talked about tablet, the iPad. Details coming up in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, an iPad is an iPad is an iPad. Now, that's the message Apple Inc. conveyed when it unveiled the 3rd version of its tablet computer, calling it only the iPad. Here's a look. With the launch of the next generation of its iPad tablet, Apple Inc. has staked, once again, its claim to the throne atop the tablet kingdom.
We are redefining the category that Apple created with the original iPad. It makes amazing improvements over the most fundamental features of the design of the device.
The newest tablet, dubbed simply iPad, is capable of operating on a 4G long-term evolution network, which offers high-quality video on the go at speeds roughly 10 times faster than the current 3G technology.
I'm interested in getting it because I only have the first one, and the speed has been slowing down a little bit, so I'm looking to upgrade.
Since its rollout in 2010, Apple has sold 55 million iPads, bringing in more than $20 billion in sales, related services and accessories just last year. This upgrade offers even more for the got-to-have-it gadget lovers, starting at the same $499 price. It is due to go on sale on the 16th of March in the UK, US, Canada, Germany, France, Switzerland, Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia and Japan. Well, the new iPad, one of the biggest tech launches this year. With that, it's now time to gear up for some sports action in our next segment.
Lionel Messi became the first player to score 5 goals in a Champions League tie as Barcelona routed Bayer Leverkusen 7-1 to reach the quarter-finals. Messi bettered his previous record of 4 against Arsenal 2 seasons ago and now has 12 goals from 7 Champions League matches after a majestic performance from the world's player of the year. Manchester United face an uphill battle to reach the Europa League quarter-finals after a shock first-leg defeat by a fearless Athletic Bilbao side. Wayne Rooney smashed United ahead from close range before Fernando Llorent's header drew the visitors level. But the Cavaliers Spaniards refused to settle for a draw as United failed to win yet another European home game. Australia's Adam Scott and American Jason Dufner produced smart golf to share the lead at 6 under after the first round of the WGC Cadillac Championship, while the big names struggled in windy conditions. Newly crowned world number 1 Rory McIlroy struggled to a 1-over par 73, while Tiger Woods, who shot the best final round of his life, ended even par after mixing 4 bogeys with 3 birdies and an eagle on his opening hole. Australia clinched the Cricket Tri-Series title as they relied on a spirited bowling display to beat Sri Lanka by 16 runs in a low-scoring thriller. After posting 231 all out on a difficult Adelaide Oval track, the hosts rode on pacer Clint McKay's 5-wicket haul to stop Sri Lanka at 215 in the third and deciding final.
What's the latest in showbiz and lifestyle? Here's a quick look.
Magic Johnson lit up the red carpet with his iconic smile in Los Angeles for the premiere of his new film, The Announcement. The ESPN documentary details the NBA great's untold story of his triumphant journey living with HIV more than 20 years after his emotional yet stoic press conference was held, breaking the news of his illness. The Announcement will be televised on the ESPN cable network on Sunday, March 11th. Britain's Prince Harry took to the dance floor in Kingston, Jamaica as part of his overseas tour to mark Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee. The Prince was watching a group of dancers at Rise Life, a project for young people in one of the more deprived districts of Kingston, when one of the dancers pulled him onto the dance floor. He danced with the group for about 30 seconds to cheers and applause from onlookers. Brad Pitt and George Clooney headlined a star-studded cast of Hollywood actors in a reading of 8, a play about California's Proposition 8 Saturday night. The reading was an account of the Federal District Court trial in Perry versus Schwarzenegger, the case filed by the American Foundation for Equal Rights to overturn Proposition 8 California Marriage Protection Act, which states only marriage between a man and a woman is valid or recognized in California. Besides Clooney and Pitt, the cast for the play included actors John C. Reilly, Jamie Lee Curtis and Jane Lynch. Givenchy went dark horse at Paris Fashion Week with Italian designer Riccardo Tisci taking in the equestrian look for autumn-winter 2012-13. The Italian designer, known for his dark and gothic looks, showed his latest ready-to-wear collection in the courtyard of a high school, with the audience nearly freezing in temperatures reaching 40 Fahrenheit. Models wore riding boots, riding jackets and jodhpurs to the sound of galloping horses.
And that's all we have for you in this edition of World Panorama. As I sign off, I leave you with these exciting visuals from the Geneva Car Show, which was somewhat weird and wacky, fast and fun. Goodbye, see you next week.